Here at the lab, we truly believe that high voltage systems are the way of the future when it comes to solar and storage. They just make way too much sense, but at the same time, we have yet to have a high voltage system come through the door here that we would actually recommend to you guys. So far, every high voltage system that we have had here at the lab has eaten up weeks of our time just for our conclusion to be that they're mid. That's been the case for everything until we got our hands on this Fox ESS. So welcome back to the lab where our opinions cannot be bought. When we got our hands on this Fox, we honestly saw them as like a small company trying to crack the market in North America. We didn't really think they were that big of a deal. Like we were just like, oh yeah, we have like 1 of 10 of their systems. We're gonna do a review on it, whatever. It wasn't until we were like fully done our testing that we realized in the UK and Europe, this is actually like the biggest brand when it comes to residential solar storage. They like own the majority of the market over there. Point being, that didn't influence any of our testing because we didn't know that at the time, which is good for you guys. But also, if you're like, who the heck is this? They are a really well-established brand overseas. They own a majority market share, which is nuts. Like they're bigger than like Tesla and other big brands. So even though in North America, they are still new, based on our experience with this product and the reputation they have overseas, it might actually be something worth you spending your money on. As always, we will leave links to this product in the description down below, as well as any discount codes that we can get to save you guys some money. And also, if this seems like a lot for you and you just want help from a local installer, we have a really quick quiz, takes you 60 seconds, and it connects you with a local installer that we actually trust to help you guys just get the whole job done. The quiz is in the description down below with discount codes. But before we jump into our experience with this, everything that we really like and all the stuff that we really didn't, we're gonna hit you with a super quick spec teardown to get you up to speed with this entire kit that we're talking about today. So to get started, what we worked with in our testing was the 9.6 kilowatt inverter. We also have the Hub G2, which is basically like Fox's version of the Grid Boss. It can be used as a service entrance. It has smart loads. You can parallel inverters through this thing, all that kind of stuff. And then you have your stackable high voltage battery. Each module is just under 4 kilowatt hours, and we were working with a total of 4 of them in our testing. So starting off with the inverter, it is a split phase hybrid inverter, and it weighs just under 84 pounds. It has UL certifications and it is NEMA 4X weather rated, so it can actually be installed outdoors. It has a max solar input of 19.2 kilowatts, which when you look at the size of it is actually pretty impressive. And that 19.2 kilowatts of solar is actually split up amongst 3 different MPPTs, which is really nice. So you can have 3 separate strands of solar going in to maximize your efficiency if you live in an area where some of your panels might be covered at different times. A lot of big inverters only have 2. When it comes to input and output, this thing has a maximum continuous output and input of 50 amps, which is a little confusing because in a high voltage system, the batteries run in series, so your voltage changes on them. So depending on how many batteries you have, that will change the actual output of the inverter. In the US, it's about 14,400 watts of continuous input and output from this inverter. Apparently overseas, you can get up to about 20 kilowatts of input and output due to just how the regulations are different, I guess, and the amount of batteries that you can stack. But here, maximum batteries with this thing, you get 14,400 watts of input and output. To achieve that, you need 1 master battery and then 4 slaves. You can obviously have more batteries than that if you want, but that is the minimum requirement to get the maximum output of this inverter. It does have a 60-second peak, or like a surge rating of about 65 amps, which is about 18 kilowatts, but it won't do that for more than about a minute. And on this inverter, there's actually 4 bolts that hold the panel on over top of all your wiring connections. But you can see once you're inside of here, you have your PV inputs, you have your 3 separate strands, you have your grid input and output connections. So you have your battery terminals right here. You can see your 3 strands for the MPPTs. You have your AC grid and AC backup connections right here. You have a couple communications. This is to get power to your hub. You have your generator port. You have dry connections. You have your e-stop if you want to wire that up to a switch. Pretty traditional internals on here, but you can see all of the connections and all of your ports are actually very small because it's a high voltage system. All the wire gauges are very, very thin. If you do mount it outside though, you just do have to be aware that the operating temperature is -10 degrees Celsius all the way up to 55 degrees Celsius. So somewhere like we live in the middle of winter, this would not do the best. Directly outside, you'd want it in something that's semi-insulated. And in terms of the design of this thing, it's actually really nice. It's very simple. As you guys saw, the front panel comes off with bolts. It's not just a latch, so your neighbor's not just gonna walk up and open it super easy. You have your notification lights right here on the front. You don't have an actual screen. You have heat sinks on the back because it's high voltage. There's no fans, which is one of the reasons why we really think this stuff is gonna last in the long run. There's less components to wear out, and it's not pulling air into the internals. So we really like these heat sinks. They worked really well in our testing. And on the far side of the unit, it looks like a PV isolator switch, but it's actually your DC power switch. So it basically turns the entire thing on or off. And all of the punch outs underneath and on the sides right here that you can see are pre-drilled, and they just come with little threaded inserts. So setting this thing up is super easy. You don't have to drill or like actually bend and manipulate those little cutouts out. They're already there for you. And if you buy this thing with the hub, it comes with an accessory kit, which actually gives you the Wi-Fi dongle and the RSD actual physical like kill switch button that you can mount on the wall. And in terms of using this, it works much like a traditional low voltage inverter that we review on the channel all the time. You have your basic operating modes, you have your like force charge and discharge mode, you have self-power modes, you have time of use modes, and backup standby modes, stuff like that, stuff that we're used to seeing. And that's pretty much all the important information on the actual inverter. We also had the Hub G2. This thing is a little bit more self-explanatory, should go a lot faster. It's got little latches on the side right here, like a traditional inverter or grid boss or anything we really have. And inside, you have your smart load breakers. So you could see there's actually two 240 volt capable ones right here. You have solar inputs because you can bring extra solar in through this hub. And you also have your inverter connection from the inverter to the hub. And then this is where your like service entry breaker would go if you were using it as an actual service entrance. There's relays in both of these. So when you have this as part of your system, this is actually where your Wi-Fi dongle connects to. You connect to the hub. It's kind of like a centralized point to monitor all of your system. This guy right here is generator capable, so you could run your generator directly into this, and then it will send the power out to charge your batteries or power your loads or whatever you're trying to do. It has those smart load ports, which basically means you can load shed. So you could use that to AC couple with an inverter to kick another inverter on when your current main inverter is getting to like its maximum kind of run rate. Or you could have it so that like at a certain threshold of your battery percentage or something like that, this will notice and go, hey, we're outputting a lot of power. We don't have a lot left. We should not charge our car right now. We should turn the EV charger off, and it will actually do that. It will kill the EV charger and make sure that you save your battery for what you have deemed to be your mandatory loads. This thing with one additional panel allows you to tie up to 4 of these inverters into it, which we will get into in a little bit. And the last part of our kit is this Fox ECS battery storage system. Basically, the top portion right here, like most other things, is the master battery, and then all the ones that just stack underneath it are the slaves, meaning this is like your BMS. This is where your power button is. This is where your main breaker goes right here on the side. You have your state of charge lights right here up and down the side. They do a little dance when you turn the battery on. It lets you know where your stack's at just from a quick glance, because again, no screen on any of this stuff. You have your nice adjustable feet that go on the bottom here. And then on the side, you just have your connection ports to wire it into the rest of your system. It's actually kind of cool. They use like these MC4 connections, so it looks like it's going to be a solar input, but it's just like a really easy, quick connect way to actually plug this in to everything else. And like I said earlier, each one of these batteries is just under 4 kilowatt hours. They are self-heated batteries, which is pretty cool. And that's it. Pretty simple setup, even though it's also pretty complicated because it's high voltage. So there's a lot of like new or different stuff than you're used to seeing. And right now, with our discount code at the time of filming this video, you can get this inverter, 1 master battery with 3 slaves, as well as this hub for $9,900. Individual components break down to be basically the hub is $563 with our code. The master battery, like the BMS portion of this, is $2,700-ish. And each slave battery is just under 2,500 bucks. And finally, the 9.6 kilowatt inverter is about 1,600 bucks. So all in all these pieces are actually like a relatively good price. And obviously like the bundle price just depends on how much you're actually trying to work with. So the first thing that we really liked about this whole system was just the fact that it is high voltage. And when you have a proper working high voltage system, a couple of nice benefits of that is that you can have your inverter a lot further away from your batteries. Because the system is a higher voltage, it's able to throw that power a lot further without having a loss in efficiency. Because you're running a higher voltage and a lower amperage, you also don't have to worry about heating up your wires in the same way, which is also why when you look at kits like this, you often don't get the normal battery cables provided for you because you just need a normal wire and they don't want to give you a ton of it, where a lot of people with these systems, they actually do run their inverter and their batteries really, really far apart. And one of the things that we liked was that even though most high voltage systems don't supply you with wires, these guys actually did supply you with decently long amount of wire. These are just to go straight into your inverter, and then these ones right here clip onto your battery. They didn't have to do that, and most companies don't, so that's cool. Something else we really like is that this G2 hub right here can function as a 200 amp service pass-through. Basically meaning you're not limited to like a partial power backup system with that. You can integrate it into your whole home. Most home panels are 200 amps. So you can actually pass all of your power directly through that, which is huge. And even if you don't want the hub because you don't need to parallel inverters or whatever, the inverter can actually do the 200 amp pass-through on its own, which is huge. We also like that the terminals and everything inside of that hub were really nice and like beefy. They were easy to work with. If you remember looking in here, everything is small and it kind of feels flimsy. We really like that when you're like setting up a system, being able to grab a nice hex drive tool and like really torque stuff down just feels better at the end of the day. And we also really like that because with these high voltage systems, you're still kind of in a market where if you want this Fox system, Fox owns everything, right? You're not pairing like a random LG inverter with a stack of Fox batteries and then you have to figure it out yourself. Because we're in this stage of these systems, the manuals that you're getting with something like this is actually really, really helpful. It outlines all the steps to set everything up because they own all of the components. They know how they all go together. They're built to go together and they can actually outline it for you. So we found that this was a really easy system to set up and get working overall, just due to having an actual legible English manual that made sense. And I guess a big perk to all this stuff being in the same ecosystem as well is that it's really easy to pass your inspections because it's all built with the same certifications and to work together. It's not like with a traditional lower voltage system where you could have a really nice EG4 inverter and some no-name batteries that end up failing inspection. This whole thing is designed to work together and it'll all pass super easy. Something else that was really nice with the hub is that you have those smart load ports. You can actually sacrifice some of those smart load ports to run more inverters into your hub instead of having to buy the additional panel to then wire your inverters into the panel, into the hub. It kind of gets confusing. So you can either buy that and utilize it with the smart ports, which are huge. Being able to load shed is like a huge advantage. But if you don't need all of them or you're willing to sacrifice one of them to get a second inverter, you can do so, and 2 inverters is plenty to run your entire home. Like most homes won't need more than what two inverters can provide. Another cool thing with their Wi-Fi dongle is that you can actually get a 4G SIM card for this, meaning you can install this whole system off grid. And unlike a lot of other systems where if you don't have Wi-Fi, like most dongles connect to the Wi-Fi network, which then you use to connect to the system. This can have a SIM card, so you could have it at a remote cabin or somewhere that has no Wi-Fi, no connection, and you can still get this thing online and be able to monitor it so you know what's going on when you're out there. You're able to change settings and stuff like that, which is actually really cool. That's the first one I think we've seen with the SIM card. And the last couple of like cool things with these is like the batteries have built-in handles, which is nice. A lot of these batteries, there's no way to pick them up. Some of the big ones do have built-in handles that we've had before, but like they're useless because they're huge. So this one has built-in handles. It's easy to set it up, move it around. And there's support when you buy any of this, you call in, it's North American, which is huge. It's a very helpful, they're in your relatively close to your time zone. They have the product on hand, they're able to help you, which we really liked. And then the final thing that we liked was honestly our testing results. I'm not gonna get super into them because there's like, we had testing with different scenarios. We had less batteries, we had more batteries, and depending on the size and scale of your system, depends on how much you're actually gonna be able to output with your inverter and all that kind of stuff. But in general, the system surged really well. It was able to surge to start our big shop compressor. It was able to run all the loads we threw at it within its range. It was able to do everything that we expected it to do really well. It was able to charge at the rates that were listed. Again, depending on how many batteries you have, there's different rates that were listed, but it was able to take all the charging that you're expecting it to do. So input works well. It was dead silent, obviously, because there's no fans or anything, just the cooling fins. Nothing got too hot. Overall, everything, including like the monitoring app and all that kind of stuff, worked really, really well. And jumping into what we don't like, the first thing has to do with the G2 hub, but I'm gonna let Dylan explain it to you because it's something that he kind of found during setup.
One thing that I've noticed as we work through the Fox Hub G2, connecting it with a 9.6K inverter, is that the Hub G2 actually only has one breaker slot for your inverter connections. So when you look at a hub similar to the EG4 Grid Boss, that system actually has multiple spots in order to parallel inverters directly in the hub. This setup, they actually only provide one breaker slot. So as listed in the manual here, the consumer would have to provide their own combiner panel, combine your paralleled inverters in the combiner panel, and then run a main line into your breaker box, which would add an extra panel on your wall if you were looking to parallel inverters.
We also noticed a little bit of a weird thing when you would fault the inverter out. Like if you were to surge it too high and trip it, it takes a minute, breathes, and then it restarts, it like reboots itself back up. But it's something that we've never noticed on any other product that we've ever tested. When it's about to boot up, there's like this little bit of ghost power that kind of like sneaks through before it actually starts. So if you have something like a light bulb plugged in or a heat gun or something that you can hear or see, you'll notice it gets like a little dim and then it comes on. Or like the heat gun will fire just a tiny bit and then it turns on before the whole system reboots, which shouldn't be a problem for you. But if you're continuously tripping your system out and you have electronics plugged in, for example, you may end up doing damage over time. So you just want to make sure that you play within the limits of this, because as long as you're not tripping it out all the time, you should be relatively safe.
That's very weird.
But that's for like a good couple seconds.
Yeah.
So that would potentially damage things in your home if they're still trying to run.
We also don't love that firmware updates on any of this stuff has to be done by a authorized dealer or Fox representative. You can't just like go on a monitoring site, get the software, download it and use it. You have to call someone or email someone or whatever, schedule for them to do it to your system, which is not that big a deal, but a lot of people go solar because they want to kind of take control of their systems, and then still having to have some of that control in someone else's hands isn't always someone's favorite thing to do. Something that I guess kind of goes with that too is that the app doesn't have like a live monitoring function. Now, this is something that they said that they're working on, they're gonna fix in the future, apparently very soon, but right now it's got like a refresh rate. So the closest thing you can do to live monitoring your system is set it to a 1 minute refresh rate, meaning every minute it will pull the current status of everything and show it to you. You can't actually kind of see it live, which is kind of weird. It's probably not that big of a deal for most people, but if you're having issues and you're trying to sort them out, not having live data is extremely frustrating. This is why we always say we really like when batteries or inverters have screens, so that even if your app isn't the best, you can at least monitor everything directly from the unit. In this case, there's no way to live monitor yet. But at the end of the day, who is a system like this for? I would say this is a system for anyone that wants something extremely reliable that is okay, at least with the limited scalability. So in our opinion, not having the fans, not having openings on your inverters and stuff like that, just having heat sinks, using a more traditional wiring setup, and the fact that this is a company that is huge overseas, it's a product that we actually trust and think is going to last for a long time. But you do have to be aware that because when you stack those batteries, they go in series, your voltage ends up getting too high that you can't have a massive system that you could with something like an EG4 product. You could power a whole freaking hotel with EG4 batteries because you can stack insane amounts of them. This you can't, but the amount of stuff that you can stack should still be good for like a regular residential setup. So I don't think that's something that you should really find an issue with. And honestly, I would say this is for anyone that's like super into the statistics of stuff and how it works. If you want the most efficient system, you don't want much power loss, you wanna make sure that you get the maximum amount out of your solar array that you can, a high voltage system is always gonna do that best for you. There's less efficiency loss through the heat in your cables and all that kind of stuff. When it comes down to it, they are just more efficient systems. But that is our thoughts on this whole thing. This was a huge video. And if at this point you're like, hey, I don't want to do any of this, Just go down, take the quiz. It takes like a minute. It'll connect you with a local installer that can actually help you figure everything out for you. We will leave links to this as well in the description down below with our coupon codes to save you guys as much money as possible. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not, and we will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out and stay charged.